I know you're looking at this video and you're thinking, bro, 38 minutes of this, I don't have time to do this, bro. Please, whoever's watching this, I beg you, please find some time, even if you gotta break it up into sections throughout your day. Please, I promise you, you won't regret it. What's up, guys? Hope you guys are having a beautiful and blessed day. As you see from today's video and the title of it, this is my testimony. And for some reason, while I was worshiping today and wondering, man, what can I do to glorify God today? I remembered that, I'm still making videos for you guys and I haven't put out in a few days, maybe almost a week. And I'm sorry that I haven't, posted anything recently. I've been going through some things within my own self that I'm trying to work on. And, God called me today to just share this two-part story with you. And I don't share it with many people, but I felt like it was time for me to just share, and God told me to do it, so I'm doing it. So this starts off as one of two parts, which, in my opinion, the first part of my testimony really gives me the understanding that God is real and what he did for me and how he showed me and how I made my faith my own in believing that he was real. And the second part of this story is pretty much just a reaffirmation that he is real, that he is working in me, and that's pretty much it. So, with that being said, I'm going to start off with part one of my testimony. And it starts off as me being a kid around, I want to say maybe around 12 years old. Let's just say that 12, 13, somewhere around that age. And, I was coming home from school and I went home. And usually nobody got to my house till later that day just because, my parents got home later. And I think my siblings were either in some type of after school program or something like that, which they weren't there at the time. So I went home and I did my normal thing as a normal kid would do is I went home, got on the couch, watched TV, just did what a kid wanted to do. And all of a sudden I hear a knock on the door. And I'm a kid. I know in my head I don't answer the door to anyone. And the good thing is that with the house that we had at that time, it had the little peephole. So I went and looked, saw who it was. It was a man I never recognized. And I just ignored it because he was banging, asking for something. And I was just like, I don't want to open this door to this guy. So I'm good. So I left it alone, went back to sit down, watch TV. And I hear banging again, like knocking. But this time, this guy's in my backyard, knocking on my sliding glass window. And I freaked out because once I saw that, there was only a few feet between like the living room couch to like a little hallway that we had that led to like our rooms. So I freaked out as a kid. So I ran into like the little hallway so that he wouldn't see me. And he went away. And I was like, that was so weird. And I went to go make sure the sliding glass door was locked. And come to find out, it wasn't. Now, that's just one sign that God protected me that day, because if that guy had known that, or at least tried opening it instead of just knocking on it, this story would be a lot different right now. And I don't know if I would be here. So he starts alternating, knocking on the front door, then going to the back door, knocking on the front door, knocking on the back door. And here I am, I'm freaking out because at this point, I'm like, this dude's trying to break in and I have nobody here with me. So I start freaking out. And as a kid, I didn't I didn't know who to call. And usually, I mean, most people think, oh yeah, call 911. I didn't do that because I was just in so much shock and so much fear as a little kid, seeing a grown man really trying to break into my house. And I called my mom. I didn't know what to do, so I called her and I told her what was going on. And she was in disbelief. She didn't know what, she didn't really believe it was going on, but she like, she didn't believe it as not believing it as in like dude, you're lying. No, she couldn't believe it was happening. So she started calling 911 for me on the other line. And meanwhile, I like when that guy went alternating to the other side again, I made sure that I locked that door. Like, I made sure I put, like, because we had this little stick that held down the sliding glass door, and then also has like the sliding glass door lock. We couldn't really use the sliding glass door lock the best because that lock really wouldn't work, which is what the stick was for. It was to make sure that nobody could like pry it open. So right as he left, I put that stick down, I close the curtains, lock everything up as best as I can. I make sure my front door is locked, and this guy just keeps going front and back, banging on my door more and more and more. And I'm a kid. I'm freaking out right now because I don't know what's going on, and I do know what's going on. The guy's trying to break in, obviously, and I don't know what to do. So I'm genuinely just really scared right now. And I have my mom on the line, and she told me, go to yourself. Go to your room, lock yourself in your room, and hide somewhere. I chose to hide in the closet. And at that time, I had like some type of wooden bat or some stick looking thing. I didn't remember what the heck it was. It wasn't a normal looking thing, but it was the only thing I had in my room to go and somewhat defend myself, because I didn't want to go back out in the living room, maybe be seen, or I don't know. That was the closest thing I had. And as a kid, I mean, you're in this room locked up, hearing banging because somebody's trying to break into your room. And I was so scared. And my mom, we grew up as Christians, and thank God for my grandmother, because she was the one who always was planting the seed in our lives. And always, she was the one who always talked to us about God, because her and my grandfather, they used to be the elders in my old church that I used to go to. And my grandfather was the pastor, and he used to preach for our church. And they did so many different things for so many different people. And like, God bless my grandparents, because man, they were the ones who really just put that seed in there. And man, I remember, like, my mom we had this little saying to ourselves. I don't know if any other Christian faith practice does this, but we say something in Spanish, and what we say is, cúbreme con tu sangre del Señor Jesús, which means, cover me with your blood, Jesus. And that's strong, because not only, the representation of Jesus's blood to us is his own sacrifice to save us. And that was obviously meant for saving us with our sin, but we also always said it in any time of any threat to our lives, whether it was physical, mental, emotional. If there was something threatening us that was worrying us, we would always say, en el nombre del Señor Jesús, cúbreme con tu sangre, Señor Jesús. That's what we would always say. My grandmother always used to say it growing up. My grandfather used to say it. My mom always used to say it. And I remember on that phone, my mom said, get in your closet and start saying, cúbreme con tu sangre del Señor Jesús. Cúbreme con tu sangre del Señor Jesús. And as a kid, I believed in God. I never didn't believe in God. I didn't follow him, but I believed him, and I knew he was real because I seen him work miracles in my life and in my family's lives. So I started singing. I'm like, God, please, en el nombre del Señor Jesús, cúbreme con tu sangre. Cúbreme con tu sangre del Señor Jesús. And I kept saying that over and over and over again. And my mom's on the line. Like, I still have her on the phone with me. And on the other line, she's calling 911. and all I hear is my sliding glass door break. And not just any break, shattered. Shattered. This dude, and come later to find out, he grabbed a huge rock and just chucked it into the door. Glass everywhere. It was a mess. And at that moment, like, my heart, I was already freaking out as a kid, but when I heard that, my heart immediately dropped. And for a second, I went silent. And I just told my mom, I was like, he's inside. And she started crying on the phone. And as a kid, when you go to your parents, when you're scared, you don't want to see your parents break down in front of you, because at least if you're scared, you want somebody who's confident in themselves, that keeps themselves composed, so that you feel secure. And when I heard her crying, and she was like, and then she started saying, "Cúbreme con tu sangre, Señor Jesús," for me, I thought I was dead. I thought I was dead. And I kept saying it, but whispering now, because I was just too scared to say it out loud. I didn't want him to hear me or find me. And man, like, my heart dropped. And I didn't know what to do. I just kept saying, I was like, "Cúbreme con tu sangre, Señor Jesús. Cúbreme con tu sangre del Señor Jesús." And guys, somehow word got out to my grandmother, which lives across the street. Not directly across, like you have housing in between, like, and you just walk like maybe 50 feet. No, like across the street, like probably like a block or two. And at the time, my aunt was dating somebody, and him and his father heard about what was going on in my house, and they rushed over to my house. And right as that guy broke into my house, they were already running to the backyard, and they saw him trying to climb into the door. They pulled him down, they held him down to the ground, and the police finally then showed up a minute or two later. And man, I just remember, like, hearing my name called, and I'm like, I don't want to go outside, because at that point I'm in an adrenaline rush and I don't know what to do. But then I recognized that's their voices. That's my aunt's boyfriend at the time. And I was like, oh my God. So I slowly opened my door. I slowly look out to see, and it was them. I saw the cops out there. So I opened the door, the front door, and, like, at that point, I mean, my mom was already rushing home. She had left work. And a little, like, just like from like the time where I left my room till like the police were asking me to make a whole report was a bit blurry. But man, like, how could you, how could I not think in that point in time, after all that happened, that God wasn't real? Like, everything was going the complete opposite way, and I should have had my life taken away. And he saved me at the last second. The last second, he saves me. And I see my mom, I hug her, I'm crying, and I'm just super emotional. And I just remember, like, my grandfather came over too. You know, I'm pretty sure we prayed. Like, some of the memory is a bit fuzzy to me, but everything from the point that he started knocking till I was able to leave the room safe, God was there. And when I see people say that God's not real and God doesn't do miracles, why does God let things happen? Man, it hurts my heart, because I've seen the glory of God. I've seen the miracle happen. That miracle, that day, I should have died. I should have died. and I'm still here. And that's all glory to God. Nobody else. And that's the first part of this story. That's my testimony when I tell people what makes you believe in God. When people ask me, why do you believe in God? I tell them that story. Because if that happened to you and you're saying, God, please help me. God, cover me with your blood of your son, Jesus Christ. And you're saved. You are physically saved from any harm. After you said it so many times. Yeah, some people are going to say, oh, it was a coincidence. Yeah, it was a coincidence that the stick wasn't down the first time he came knocking on it. And it was a coincidence he didn't open it the first time and I got killed or I got hurt. It was a coincidence that, oh, my grandparents heard it from the block down. It's a coincidence that two guys, not just one, but two guys were able to come around my house and be able to stop him. It was a coincidence that he broke into my house, that he broke the glass, and right as he's stepping in, they're able to grab him. It's a coincidence that my mom was calling the police. 15 to 20 minutes is what they took to show up. It's a coincidence, right? It's not. It's not a coincidence. And I'm tired of hearing people say, oh, it's just coincidences. It's just something that just can't be explained. You know what a miracle is? A miracle, the definition of a miracle is an unexpected and good surprise that math or science cannot explain. And that's something that my church taught me recently in these last couple weeks. And man, I've been thinking about miracles and I've been praying about miracles. And you know what? This video is hopefully a miracle to somebody. Because I survived, and that was my miracle for my life, my testimony that God gave me, that God placed upon me in my life. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here, and I am. And that's all because of God. And when people ask me, why do you believe in God? Or when I hear people say, man, just forget it. Forget that stuff. I don't believe in God. I'd rather serve anything else. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's a real living God. There's a real living Jesus. One who died 3 days later, resurrected, and he's the reason that I'm saved. And nobody's going to ever tell me otherwise. Nobody. Nobody will ever tell me otherwise that God is not real. Because in that moment, I asked for him and he showed up to the very last second. So coincidences, right? There can only be so many coincidences, guys. And at the end of the day, when are you just gonna say, you know what, this is too many coincidences happening to really be a coincidence? There's got to be an explanation. You know what the explanation is? God. Why I'm here? God. Why am I saved? Because of God. Who brought me in this world? God. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. And I sit here and get emotional because I know what it's like to not believe. And I know what it's like to not follow. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to doubt God. I know what it's like to question him and to be on the other side of being a believer. I know what it's like. And I hated that life. I look back at that life and I hate it. The things I thought I could do for myself, I can't. I can't do it by myself. I can't do it by myself. I needed God. And God showed up. And for anyone watching this who doubts that God's real, I'm telling you, man, he's real. He's real and he loves you and he cares about you. And he can perform miracles that nobody can explain. Not math, not science, not your parents, not your friends, nobody. He can save you. He wants to save you. This isn't a joke. There's so many people disconnected from him that doubt him and question him in such a negative way. It's like, why? He's real. And he's alive. And he's working in all of us. And he wants to save you. But only if you let him. You have to be willing to take that next step and ask for his salvation. And say, you know what? I can't do this on my own. I can't. And I don't want to do this on my own. And with that being said, I bring you to my next part, my part 2 of this testimony. And this happened very recently, in these last 6 months. And one thing I've struggled with that unfortunately many men struggle with is lust. And I had talked with many women in the past. I tried getting with many women in the past. And I'm not proud of it. I'm not. But it's the truth. And I don't hide from it because that's a part of me. That's a part of my story. It's not a part of me anymore and I don't want it to be. But it's a part of my story and who I am and how I became who I am today. And this involved a girl that I developed feelings for. And over time, I fell in love with her. And unfortunately, things didn't go the right way. And things happened. I wasn't a man of God in certain times. And I didn't do things the way that a man of God should do it. And God pulled me away from her. And that was arguably the hardest heartbreak I've had to go through. I've only been with one woman in terms of having a girlfriend, and that was years ago. But the love that I had for this girl was a lot more than the one that I had of my actual girlfriend, which was why I made it so hard. And it was hard to distance myself because I loved her so much. And I had one of my best friends keep telling me, man, you gotta let it go because you gotta distance yourself, because if you don't, you're gonna hurt yourself more. And I ignored it for such a long time, and he was right. I let things go on, and it hurt me more, and that's what I get. So months go by, weeks go by, I'm starting to make that distance between me and her. And it's like an open wound, and it's some days where it's like I feel okay, and some days I didn't. And on a particular day, I remember I was leaving work, and I think I was heading to the gym because I ended up in like my gym's parking lot. Excuse me. And I was listening to it was sad music. I was listening to something new, but it was sad. And at the moment, the wound of my heart being hurt from having to put some space between me and that girl, it caused me a lot of problems. And just that's one thing I want to say. Like, man, the music that you listen to really affects how you feel. You gotta watch it. And that's why I deleted a lot of my music, because a lot of that type of music, it got me down. And there was times where I'd put myself in that mental state on purpose for no reason. It was just, oh yeah, I just want to be sad. I want to be in my feelings. And that's like the dumbest thing ever. Like, why would you want to do that? Like, it's just, that's counterintuitive to yourself. But I remember I was listening to this music, and it was getting me real down, and it was reminding me of her and like our situation, what was going on. I just remembered, I immediately thought in my head, I was like, I could just kill myself and end it. And a lot of people right now are gonna watch this and be like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, you're young. Like, what are you complaining for? Doesn't matter what age you are. Everyone still goes through things. And whether we're young or old. Yeah, older people are gonna think that younger people's problems aren't really that big of problems because the older people have gone through more stuff than us. I understand their reasoning for that, but in my point of life at that time, that was like the hardest thing I was going through. And that's the hardest thing I've ever experienced yet. So for me, it was a lot. To somebody else, it might not be a lot because they've already gone through so many heartbreaks and so many different traumatic events that it doesn't really phase them the same way. But it still felt really new to me, what I was going through. And I remember I just told myself, man, I could just take this car and turn the wheel, just end it. And right at that moment, like, I heard God. And at that time, actually, I was about a year and a half into my walk with the Lord. And I was confident at that time, like around that time in my life, that my faith with God really is strong. And when that happened, I knew that there was still a lot of work done that needed to be done. And I just remember right in that moment when I thought that thought, I was like, I cannot be alone with this thought. I have to call somebody. So I start calling people on my phone, and dude, like, no one's answering. I'm here freaking out. I'm here crying my eyes out. And I'm just saying, God, please let somebody answer. And I remember telling God, I was like, God, I know you're here with me, but I really would like to physically be able to talk to somebody and just have somebody over the phone. Please have somebody answer. Guys, I kid you not. I called like 10 to 15 people. Nobody was answering. And I just kept praying to God, and I'm like, God, please just let somebody answer, please. And I didn't want to call this person because this person had a very, very close bond with the girl that I loved. It was actually her mother. And I was very close with her. And she had, I don't know, like, I looked at that name in my phone and I was like, dude, I cannot call her. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, you're being an idiot. You can't call her. And I called her, and she was the only one that answered. And I told her everything that I was going through and what I was feeling. And you want to know what the first thing she told me was? She told me, and I'll never forget these words because this was like a knife to the heart. But it was like the thing that I needed the most. And just a little backstory, prior, like a couple months back, she was going through some things, and I had offered some advice to the best of my abilities that I can. And I was talking to her about God and letting her know that, man, you just got to put it in God's hands. And fast forward now, I'm asking for her help, and I'm telling her, like, man, like, all these thoughts in my head and what's going on. And the one thing that she tells me, I can imagine her. We were on the phone, but if she was in person, I knew she'd look me right in the eyes, and she'd be like, the faith that you were telling me to have a long time ago, where's that faith in you now? And I'm here on the phone, and I'm like, I'm speechless. I have nothing to say. And I'm like, I had nothing to say. And she was right. I was like, how can I preach to other people to have faith in God if I didn't have that same faith? And she opened my eyes that day, and she told me, she was like, that faith that you were telling me to have, you need to have that faith right now. And she's like, I know you're going through a lot, but you need to grab a hold of yourself, and you need to have that faith that you were telling me to have not long ago. And the conversation lasted for a bit. She consoled me and she comforted me. She told me, she just gave me, good advice. And man, like, that one line where she was just like, that faith that that you were telling me to have months ago, where's that faith now? I don't think, at least until at this point in my life, at least I can't remember. But man, I can't remember a time somebody told me something so like gut wrenching, where it was just like, it felt like somebody just punched me in my stomach, and it was just like, and it's the truth. And at that point in my life, I knew that my faith wasn't as strong as it could be, and that it needed to grow. And that's my second part of my testimony, because I was calling so many different people and nobody was picking up. And the one person I looked at her name in my contacts, and I was like, dude, do not call her. Do not call her. You don't need to bother her with this. But nobody else was answering. And I was like, screw it. If she answers, perfect. At least I got somebody. If not, I said, Lord, please, I don't know who else I think I'm going to call right now. And if not, then I really don't want to be alone with these thoughts in my head. And the rest is history. And now I make sure that I wake up every day thanking God for everything He's done in my life. Because this part of my testimony, where He reassured me that, He is with me. And the thing is, sometimes we feel so depressed that we still want something to touch, something to hear, somebody to grab. And that's kind of like the story with Thomas and Jesus, because Thomas, he was known, and you can read about it in, if I'm not mistaken, in John, that Mary went out to all the disciples and told them, Jesus resurrected. But Thomas was very skeptical, and he was just always like, he had to see it or he had to touch it to believe. And in the Bible it says, you believe because you have seen and you have touched me. That's what Jesus told Thomas. And then he goes on to say, but those who believe without seeing are blessed as well. And that's us. We've never seen Jesus ourselves. We never physically touched him or seen him or heard him literally like in our face. But that reminds me of that story, because there's a lot of us like that. And that was me at that moment. And I knew God was real. I knew God was there with me. But I still wanted something more tangible. And I look back at that now. And God, I'm sorry for thinking you weren't enough that day. But I'm glad that He showed up and gave me somebody to talk to when nobody else was picking up. And it was an eye-opener that truly changed my view on what I was doing in my life with my walk with God. And I'm still not perfect. I never will be. But I made it very adamant from that day on, I have to follow God more aggressively. I have to. And I've still made mistakes along the way from then until now. I'm still learning, but I pushed through and still here. To be honest, I'm happier now than ever, and I've got so much peace in my life, and God's doing miracles in my life right now, even in this past week, that I can't even explain. Like, the things that I've done that I never thought I would do, God pushed me to do it and gave me the boldness and the confidence to do. And He's awesome. And just before I wrap up this video, guys, I want to give you guys a quick little verse from Acts that I actually started with Acts this week. And currently I'm on chapter 4, but I'm going to read you something from chapter 2 that I read about a day or two ago. And this is coming from Acts 2, verses 45 through 47. And this is after pretty much Peter was telling everyone he was around, guys, you have to repent, you have to be baptized, you have to do all these different things. Let's do this. Let's take these steps forward to truly follow and make sure that we make God a priority. And this is what he says just a few sentences later. It says, starting from 45, they sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day, they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Now, the reason why I read this, and some of you might think that this may not directly correlate to this type of video where somebody's talking about a testimony, but there's like one or two things here that really stuck out to me. And one of the first things that really stuck out to me is every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together. Now, notice with those two things, the common thing with both those sentences is they did those things together with each other as a family, as a group. And I use that because it's always so important to have people in your life. God never intended us to be alone, and he always wants us to be around other people. He doesn't intend on us being alone. And just like I felt alone in those times, he showed me that I wasn't. And the second thing that really stuck out to me is, and the Lord added to their number daily those who are being saved. And if you listened to my part 1, I knew in that day I was saved. And I knew that he was real. And I knew that he was working in my life. And it's just such a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing, guys, to just see God working in your life. And I pray for anyone who watches this video. I know it's been a lengthy video, but for anyone who has stuck around and watched it, I really do hope and pray that this stuck out to you, and hopefully you can grab something from it today. But I just wanted to share that with you guys, and share something about myself. It's, like I said, not something that I like sharing very openly, but I will if God calls me to do so. And God called me to do it today. So I know you're looking at this video and you're thinking, bro, 38 minutes of this, I don't have time to do this, bro. Please, I whoever's watching this, I beg you, please find some time. Even if you gotta break it up into sections throughout your day, please. I promise you, you won't regret it. And for those of you who have stuck around and have listened to me this far, I thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to this video today about my testimonies and the reason why I follow God and the reason why I chose to keep doing it. And I pray and hope that this touches somebody, and I pray and I hope that you learn something from this. So I thank you guys so much for all the love and the support that you guys have given me so far with my channel. I'm going to be doing my best to be releasing more videos. I've been a little bit busy, but I'm getting the hang of this new schedule that I'm working with right now. So just pray that everything can go well and that I can still be consistent for you guys, because man, like God has called me to do this for you, and I couldn't be more happier. So thank you again, guys, for those who watch this. I love you and I appreciate you. Have a beautiful day, beautiful night, wherever you're watching.